All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're doing a deep, forensic dive into one of the most profound and enduring mysteries of the Quran, the disjointed letters, or what are known as the huruf muqatta'at. These are the individual letters that begin certain chapters. And we're going to focus on a combination that is totally unique: Alif, Lam, Mim, Sad. It only appears once, and it's right at the start of the 7th chapter, Surah Al-Araf. So here's the plan for our investigation. First, we'll tackle the core mystery itself. What are these letters? Then, we'll zero in on that unique combination in Surah Al-Araf. From there, we'll unpack the major theories from scholars over the centuries, and then explore this really powerful idea that these letters are directly connected to the surah's content. We'll dig deep into the evidence and the arguments before we wrap it all up with a full summary of what we've uncovered.
Okay, let's start at square one. What exactly are these mysterious letters? And, why have they been such a source of fascination for scholars for literally more than 1,400 years?
These are the huruf muqatta'at. You'll find them at the beginning of 29 chapters of the Quran. They're just individual letters of the Arabic alphabet, and they're pronounced by their names, like Alif, Lam, Mim, not as some combined word. What they mean, what their purpose is, well, that remains one of the most debated topics in the entire field of Islamic commentary.
And that right there is the central puzzle, isn't it? Are they some kind of abbreviation? Are they mystical symbols? Could they be a linguistic challenge thrown down to the greatest poets of that era, or something else entirely? This single question has fueled centuries of deep theological and linguistic investigation, and it really is the foundation of our entire analysis today. The basis for our deep dive today comes from this specific source text. It's the 4th session of the Quranic commentary, or tafsir, on Surah Al-Araf, which is based on the incredibly detailed work of Allama Tabatabai. It's the arguments laid out here that we're going to be methodically unpacking.
Okay, so let's narrow our lens now. We're moving from the general phenomenon of these letters to our specific case study, the 4 letters that kick off Surah Al-Araf.
The combination Alif, Lam, Mim, Sad is, and this is key, absolutely one of a kind. While you might see its component parts somewhere else, this exact 4-letter sequence appears only once in the entire Quran. Just once, right here. Now, in a text that is believed to be precise and deliberate in every single detail, that kind of singularity, it practically screams for our attention. Now, this is where the forensic analysis really begins. To understand the whole, you have to understand the parts. The combination Alif, Lam, Mim is actually one of the most common sets of letters. It introduces 6 major surahs, which often deal with big themes like law, guidance, and the people of the book. Then you have the letter Sad. It stands all by itself at the start of the 38th chapter, Surah Sad, which is renowned for its intense focus on patience and the trials faced by the prophets. So this brings us to a really powerful hypothesis presented in our source text. The argument is that Alif, Lam, Mim, Sad isn't just a random string of letters, it's more like a thematic equation. It's signaling to you, the reader, that the content you're about to engage with in Surah Al-Araf is a deliberate fusion. It's going to merge the core messages you'd find in those Alif, Lam, Mim chapters with the core messages of Surah Sad. It's like a signpost for the intellectual journey that's about to begin.
Okay, so now that we have a leading hypothesis for our specific case, let's pull back a bit. We're going to look at the major theories that scholars have come up with over the centuries to explain all of the huruf muqatta'at in general.
The first view, and you see this a lot especially among the early commentators, is one of just profound humility. This theory basically says that the meaning of these letters is a divine secret. It's known only to God, period. The real takeaway here isn't an answer, but an acknowledgement of our own intellectual limits. It suggests that a part of faith is accepting that some things in Revelation are simply beyond human grasp, serving as a constant reminder of the sheer vastness of divine knowledge. Now, this next theory is one of the most compelling and widely cited. It's the theory of ijaz, which means the inimitability of the Quran. The argument is just brilliant in its simplicity. It's as if God is saying, look, this divine message is made from the exact same letters, the A, the L, the M, that you Arabs use to create your most celebrated poetry. You have the raw materials right in front of you. The challenge, the tahadi, is then laid bare. Go on. If you doubt this is from me, try to make something like it. The power of this theory is that it's not just some abstract claim of divinity. It was a publicly testable challenge right in the heart of that linguistic culture.
And this verse from Surah Al-Isra just perfectly captures the spirit of that challenge. According to this theory, the disjointed letters are a constant, stark reminder of this open challenge. They are literally the building blocks of the Arabic language, presented right at the top to emphasize that even with all the components at their disposal, Humans cannot replicate the divine speech of the Quran.
But it doesn't stop there. Beyond those two big theories, there's a whole spectrum of other interpretations. Some scholars have suggested there are abbreviations for divine names. For example, Alif Lam Mim might stand for Ana Allahu Alam, meaning I am God, the all-knowing. Others have argued they're simply the names of the chapters themselves. Then there's a more practical, historical view. They were used to grab the attention of a hostile audience in Mecca, an audience that was trying to make noise and drown out the prophet's recitation. And finally, you have the more esoteric view, that each letter has a numerical value in the object system, unlocking some hidden layer of meaning about prophecies or cosmic truths.
All right, let's circle back now to the core argument from our source text. This is the idea that these letters aren't just abstract symbols. They are deeply thematically tied to the specific message of the surah they introduce.
This school of thought, which our source text really champions, argues that the letters are a kind of divine summary. Think of it like a thematic prelude or a musical overture before the main performance. The specific letters chosen for a surah act as a symbolic key, one that unlocks and foreshadows its main themes and stories. They're the essence of the chapter, distilled down into just a few characters.
And here's where we can see this theory applied directly to Alif Lam Mim Sad. It's really incredible. The Alif Lam Mim part is almost always associated with the book, the divine revelation. And true to form, what's the verse that comes right after these letters? This is a book revealed to you. It's a perfect match. But then you add the letter Sad. That letter is linked to themes of steadfastness and patience, or sabr. And what is Surah Al-Araf? It's a grand tapestry of prophetic stories, and every single one is a lesson in steadfastness. It details Adam's fall and his long path to repentance, Noah building the ark while being ridiculed, Hud and Saleh facing down their powerful, arrogant tribes, Lot confronting a corrupt society, Shuaib dealing with cheating merchants, and then, most extensively, it gives us this epic saga of Moses against the tyranny of Pharaoh, a masterclass in patience and divine support. So you see, the letters perfectly capture the surah's dual focus, the divine book being revealed and the incredible steadfastness you need to uphold its message.
Now we're going to get even more granular. We're going to examine the specific linguistic evidence from our source text that really bolsters this theory of a thematic link. This is where the argument becomes incredibly precise.
So a key piece of evidence that the source highlights is a recurring pattern. You have to ask, what comes in the verse immediately after these disjointed letters? The observation is that there seems to be a remarkably consistent and very deliberate structure at play here. And this slide lays out that pattern perfectly. The letters are stated and then boom, the text immediately affirms the divine nature of the Quran. Look at Al-Baqarah. Alif Lam Mim is followed by This is the book. Now look at our surah, Al-A'raf. Alif Lam Mim Sad is immediately followed by This is a book revealed to you. The rhetorical effect is just so powerful. It's pairing the raw, fundamental components of language with this grand declaration about the finished, inimitable divine product.
So how consistent is this pattern really? Well, according to the source text, this immediate reference to the book, or the revelation, happens in 26 out of the 29 surahs that start with these letters. Let that sink in. 26 out of 29. That's a consistency of nearly 90%, which strongly suggests this isn't a coincidence. It's a deliberate rhetorical structure, and it's a huge piece of evidence for the argument of a thematic connection.
But of course, any good analysis has to deal with the exceptions, right? The three surahs that don't explicitly say the book right after the letters are Maryam, Al-Ankabut, and Ar-Rum. But the source argues that even these three still follow the broader principle. Take Surah Maryam, for instance. After the letters, the text immediately launches into the story of the prophet Zechariah receiving a divine message about the miraculous birth of his son. So the theme of divine communication, of revelation, is still the very next topic. The thematic link is preserved.
And just to ground our discussion in the concrete reality of the text we're analyzing, here's a quick look at the numbers for Surah Al-Araf. It's the 7th chapter, it has 206 verses, more than 3,000 words, and over 14,000 letters. It's inside this massive linguistic structure that these first 4 letters carry so much potential meaning.
You know, a big part of the scholarly debate, as our source details, is purely about grammar. How do these letters actually function in a sentence? The first view is that they exist outside of normal grammar. They're symbols, not words with a grammatical role. But the second view argues that they are very much part of the sentence. In this reading, Alif Lam Mim would be the subject, and the phrase that follows, This is the book, would be the predicate. It would form a complete sentence. These letters are the book.
The implication of this is huge, because it would grammatically cement the link between the letters and the revelation itself.
So, after this whole journey, through the mystery, the unique case, the theories, and the detailed arguments, let's bring it all together. We're going to compile a final summary of the major interpretive frameworks that we've analyzed from our source.
And here's the bottom line. No single theory has achieved universal, unanimous consensus. Our forensic analysis has laid out these primary schools of thought. The divine mystery view champions humility, but it can also stop further inquiry in its tracks. The theological challenge gives us a powerful logical argument, but it doesn't really explain why these specific letters were chosen. The thematic keys theory, which our source favors, offers this deeply satisfying literary connection, linking the form to the content. And of course, the other views, from abbreviations to grammatical functions, each give us a different lens to look through.
And that leaves us with a final question to reflect on. After this deep dive, what do you think is the most compelling function of these letters? Are they a divine code waiting to be unlocked? Are they a sophisticated linguistic and rhetorical tool to frame the text? Or are they an enduring, open challenge to all of humanity for all time? Maybe the answer isn't about picking just one theory. Maybe the real point is appreciating how these few simple letters have sparked centuries of the most profound intellectual and spiritual engagement with the Quranic text.